Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in. Another busy day for you. Here's what we're going to talk about. Oil prices fell nearly 6% as President Trump says Iran negotiations are in the final stages and a peace deal is very close. The New York Post has a report that's catching attention. Congress's most out-of-it members, seniors, who freeze, get bamboozled, and even have dementia, yet remain in office. This is quite the interesting report. We've got it for you. What started as a fight inside of a Washington, D.C. Chipotle has now exploded into a national debate about youth crime, parenting, and public safety in America's capital city. And now former judge and current U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro says enough is enough, warning parents they could soon face prosecution if their teenagers are involved in these violent takeovers. And Representative Luke Rankin joins us for the latest on the redistricting saga in the South Carolina legislature as the state Senate now has the House-passed version of the bill. There's a lot to cover. Let's get started.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
The U.S. dollar traded below a 6-week high yesterday, easing as investors grew optimistic that Washington could be nearing an agreement with Iran to end the conflict in the Middle East. President Trump had said that negotiations were in their, quote, final stages, but did warn that additional attacks could follow if Iran failed to reach a deal. He said, we'll see what happens. Either we have a deal or we're going to do some things that are a little bit nasty, but hopefully that won't happen. Brent crude futures had fallen $6.64 or 5.97% to 104.64 per barrel by 1:45 yesterday. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said bond yields and energy prices are transient and will ease as the Iran conflict winds down. In a post on X, Bessent also urged allies to maintain pressure on Tehran, saying, I enjoyed meeting with His Excellency Ali bin Ahmad Al-Khoury in Qatari. Bessent wrote, he said, we discussed Doha's tremendous resilience in the face of Iran's indiscriminate attacks on its neighbors and the need for allies to continue to pressure Iran now to end its threats. Bessent had called on world leaders to help the U.S. combat Iranian terrorism by rooting out the financing that sustains it, while outlining a new framework for, quote, aggressive and targeted sanctions. He said, crushing the threat of terrorism compels all of you to step up and to join us. No money for terror was the message to our allies. Now, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said that the U.S. was locked and loaded in a post shared on X, reiterating comments earlier from Vice President J.D. Vance. The post featured Vance telling reporters at the White House that the United States will not accept any deal allowing Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon, adding that President Trump is locked and loaded and ready to act if necessary. Again, this supported the line in the sand that the Vice President, J.D. Vance, had drawn.
The president has told us to aggressively negotiate with the Iranians. Why did I go to Islamabad, Pakistan? Why did I spend, I think, probably 22 hours on a plane going there, 24 hours coming back, and then 21 hours on the ground negotiating with the Iranians? Is because we wanted to show a sign of good faith. The vice president of the United States is willing to cut a deal so long as the Iranians are willing to meet us again on that core issue of never having a nuclear weapon. We think that we've made a lot of progress. We think the Iranians want to make a deal. The President of the United States has asked us to negotiate in good faith, and that's exactly what we've done. So we're in a pretty good spot here, but there's an option B. And the option B is that we could restart the military campaign to continue to prosecute the case, to continue to try to achieve America's objectives. And we could talk a little bit about what that looks like, but that's not what the president wants, and I don't think it's what the Iranians want either. We have an opportunity here, I think, to reset the relationship that has existed between Iran and the United States for 47 years. That's what the president has asked us to do, and that's what we're going to keep on working at. But it takes two to tango. We are not going to have a deal that allows the Iranians to have a nuclear weapon. So as the president just told me, we're locked and loaded. We don't want to go down that pathway, but the president is willing and able to go down that pathway if we have to.
Look, I hope that Iran understands, and whoever's calling the shots over there, and that's a big question because we're not completely sure we know. We're not completely sure that we're negotiating with the real decision makers. But I hope that they understand that Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and everybody else who's involved in negotiations, the Treasury Secretary Bessent, Pete Hegseth, that we're negotiating from a point of strength. We're not playing around. The American people have made it clear. We're willing to sacrifice some in order to make sure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon. Our patience is growing thin, though, because I think a lot of Americans believe that Iran is just trying to jerk us around, that Iran is not negotiating in good faith. They think that they can just toy with us and that we're just going to go away. So it may take a few more missiles, may take disrupting their energy sector, destroying some of their energy infrastructure. But we got to wrap this up. We got to finish the job and get back to normal. We're running out of time. Now, President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, we're told, held a pretty tense call over ending the war with Iran, with the president defending the diplomatic process. Evidently, there's a little bit of a crack in the relationship there with Mr. Netanyahu wanting to, I guess, continue the attack. Axios is citing three sources that reported that one source said Netanyahu's hair was on fire during the conversation. The call came after Qatar and Pakistan, along with regional mediators, drafted a revised peace proposal aimed at bringing the divide between the U.S. And bridging that divide between the U.S. and Iran. According to the Wall Street Journal, Netanyahu shared his doubts that Iran would stick to an agreement to dismantle its nuclear program and refrain from attacking its Gulf neighbors. Axios also reported that the Israeli prime minister wants to resume the war to further degrade Iran's military capabilities and weaken the regime. And I get that. Look, if we lived next door to them, that close, we might want to be sure that they have no capabilities, not only no nuclear capabilities, but that their military is so weakened that they're not able to fight anytime soon, not for decades. And I'm sure that Mr. Netanyahu is looking through this through a different lens than what the president and what we're looking at. The president continued to express confidence again, that a deal can be reached while also warning that he's prepared to resume that military action. So what exactly is being considered as part of this deal? I don't know that we really know. One of the Iranian influencers who's considered a hardline, Ali Golkaki, claimed that Washington had floated a new proposal to Tehran that would release roughly $25 billion in frozen Iranian assets and permit uranium transfers abroad as part of a broader nuclear and sanctions framework. Again, there's no official confirmation of this. This is this influencer, but people seem to place some trust in this guy. The proposal, according to him, also included limits on uranium enrichment at 3.67%. He said the Americans, after receiving Iran's feedback, have proposed at the end of the war across all fronts, lifting of the U.S. blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, opening of the Strait of Hormuz by Iran with tariffs and the maritime route preferred by Iran, release of 25% of Iran's frozen assets, approximately $25 billion, exemption for Iran's oil sales for 30 days, and the main phase of negotiations, namely removal of 400 kilograms of uranium from Iran in the best case, shipment to a third country, and acceptance of Iran's right to 3.67% enrichment, which he said unlikely to be accepted by the U.S. in the final phase. Iran says all phases proposed by the U.S. should be implemented by verification over 30 days so that Iran can both sell its oil and be persuaded to engage in nuclear negotiations. Again, this is some influencer. We don't know if it's accurate, but maybe we're headed in the right direction. Again, we got to trust President Trump to get the very best deal that he possibly can and wrap this thing up. We need to get into the summer, let gas prices come down so that families can afford to go on vacation and not put a strain on our budgets. We got to get people settled down and comfortable that good things are coming as we head to November and the midterm elections. There's a moment no one wants to talk about with weight loss. It's the moment it stops working. Joey Hudson here. The diet that worked before doesn't. The workouts don't hit the same. Even eating less stops moving the scale. That's not random. That's your body protecting itself. Because when your body thinks it's under stress, it slows your metabolism, holds on to fat, and fights you every step of the way. That's why quick fixes eventually fail. Even the popular GLP-1 shots, they suppress appetite, but they don't fix what caused the problem. At PhD Weight Loss, they focus on restoring your metabolism so your body stops fighting you. That's when the real change happens. And right now, when you call and mention Joey, you're going to get 2 weeks free, and they'll pay for the cost of your food. Just call 864-644-1900. Do it right now and get ready for the summer. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com, because the goal isn't to lose weight once. It's to never have to start over again. Call today and tell them Joey sent you. America is watching another shocking scene unfold in Washington, D.C. A violent mob of teenagers turned a busy Chipotle restaurant into complete chaos. Furniture flying through the air, families ducking for cover, children screaming in fear. Roll the tape.
We're looking at the parents to make sure that they understand that they are responsible for the upheaval that is going on in this district. We will prosecute you aggressively, and we will prosecute your parents.
And now federal prosecutors are promising consequences, not just for the teens involved, but maybe the parents too, which leads to a question. Should parents be held responsible in cases like this? Should parents be held responsible for the actions of their children? This story is raising a much bigger question tonight. How did we get here? Over the weekend, a massive brawl broke out inside a Chipotle restaurant. This was in Washington, D.C., in the Navy Yard district, one of the city's busiest and fastest growing areas. Now, this disturbing video quickly went viral online like they often do. You can see groups of juveniles punching, kicking, throwing chairs, even using a child's high chair as a weapon, while innocent customers huddled in corners trying to protect themselves and their family. Adults and young children were trapped inside the restaurant as total chaos erupted around them. And now, the fallout is getting serious. The Metro Police Department and the FBI have joined forces to identify the suspects involved. Authorities have already released surveillance photos of 4 juvenile suspects and are offering thousands of dollars in reward money for information leading to their arrest. This is no longer being treated as kids being kids. Federal officials are calling it organized violence Unfortunately, we're seeing this all around the country. The timing of this incident is especially significant. Just one day before the Chipotle brawl, U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro publicly announced a tougher crackdown on what city leaders are calling teen takeovers. Pirro warned that parents could be prosecuted if they knowingly allow their children to participate in violent late-night activities after curfew. And after this latest incident went viral, she's doubling down. Pirro said, "These gatherings are not harmless social events." She described them as violent disruptions that destroy businesses, threaten public safety, and terrorize innocent people. Her message is pretty direct. Parents are not bystanders anymore. Under new enforcement strategy, adults could face charges for contributing to the delinquency of a minor if their children are caught participating in these violent gatherings. That's a dramatic escalation in the response to rising juvenile crime in the nation's capital. It's like we're seeing these types of brawls, this type of disruption on a weekly basis. It's almost like these kids are planning them to be part of the next viral video. Frankly, it reflects growing frustration from residents and business owners who say they're tired of living with chaos. This isn't happening in isolation. Washington, D.C. has seen a growing trend of large youth gatherings, often coordinated through social media, that quickly spiral into violence, vandalism, robberies, and assaults. The Navy Yard area has become one of the biggest hotspots. Residents say they've watched groups of teenagers flood into the area late at night, overwhelming police presence and intimidating businesses. Some local restaurants and retailers say customers are afraid to return after dark, and who wouldn't be? Here's what makes this politically explosive. Ms. Pirro is also criticizing several mayoral candidates in Washington for openly opposing cooperation with federal prosecutors and law enforcement efforts. This battle is now becoming part of a much larger national conversation over crime policy in major American cities. Now, for years, many big city leaders have pushed softer approaches to juvenile justice, arguing that punishment alone doesn't solve deeper social problems. Critics now say that these policies have created an atmosphere where young offenders feel like they are untouchable. Nobody's going to do anything to them. They're not accountable. Videos like this Chipotle incident only intensify public frustration. So let me ask you something. Do you believe parents should be held legally responsible if their children repeatedly participate in violent crimes? Or do you think government leaders are going too far? Now, there's another layer to this story that people across the country are paying attention to. It's not just about one restaurant fight. It's about the growing sense that public order is slipping away in many American cities, in malls, in restaurants, high schools. When families walk into a restaurant on a Saturday night, they shouldn't have to wonder whether they'll end up hiding in a corner while teenagers throw chairs across the room. And when videos like this spread online, they shape perceptions about safety, about leadership in those areas, and accountability. The reality is this. Most teenagers are good kids. They just want to have fun. Most parents work hard and care deeply about their children. But when a culture develops where violence becomes entertainment and social media fame rewards reckless behavior, communities start paying the price. Businesses suffer. Families stay home. Police resources get stretched thin over babysitting these kids when their parents should be taking care of them. Ordinary citizens like you and me lose confidence that public spaces are safe. That's why Ms. Pirro's comments are resonating with many Americans right now. Whether people agree with her tactics or not, there's clearly a growing demand for accountability. And politicians across the country are paying attention because voters consistently rank crime and public safety among their top concerns. This issue is no longer just confined to Washington, D.C. It's part of a national debate about law enforcement, parenting, juvenile justice, and the future of America's cities. For now, investigators continue to search for the suspects involved in the Chipotle brawl, while city leaders face mounting pressure to get control of the situation before the summer months bring even larger gatherings. And one thing's for certain, the debate over youth crime, parental responsibility, and public safety is just getting louder. What do you think? Should parents face criminal consequences when their children repeatedly engage in violent behavior? Send me a quick text. Email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY. U.S. Representative Nancy Mace is back in the headlines, this time on a proposal that actually kind of makes some sense. Under the U.S. Constitution, anyone who is not a natural-born citizen is barred from becoming president or vice president. We all know that from our civics class. Now, Ms. Mace is proposing that this would apply to any member of Congress, to federal judges, and other Senate-confirmed appointees, that they would all have to be natural-born citizens before they can hold those positions. This proposal would affect more than a dozen naturalized citizens currently serving in the U.S. House of Representatives, including several Republicans. Now, as you know, Ms. Mace is running for governor in South Carolina. She suggested that the country's nearly 25 million naturalized citizens who made the deliberate choice to become Americans may have divided loyalty, she said. She said this to Fox News Digital. If you hold power in American government, you should be a natural-born American citizen. For too long, we have allowed foreign-born members to hold seats in this government while making clear their loyalty is not here. We see it every day. She specifically called out Progressive Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, who was born in Somalia and became a naturalized citizen in the year 2000. She said Ilhan Omar is just one of the many foreign members of this government who have made clear time and time again their loyalty is not here. The American people deserve leaders who put America first. This amendment closes a gap in our Constitution long overdue for closing. What do you think? Is she on to something? Do you agree with Nancy Mace? I've often watched Ilhan Omar and some of the others and thought she should not be serving in the United States Congress. Should not be allowed to do so. You agree? Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Should people like Ilhan Omar be allowed to serve in the U.S. Congress and in other high levels of government? Omar's path to citizenship has also faced heightened scrutiny from Republicans over the past few months. Vice President J.D. Vance said that Omar is under investigation by the Department of Justice for possible immigration fraud. Some Republicans have called for her deportation over the alleged offense. A spokesperson for Ms. Omar would not respond to the comment. Now, Mace's proposal probably faces steep odds of becoming part of the Constitution. It requires a 2/3 vote in both chambers of the Congress before ratification by 3/4 of U.S. states. It is a long process, as it should be. It should be a process to amend our Constitution. Amendments can also be proposed through a constitutional convention requested by 2/3 of state legislatures, though that method has never, ever been used successfully. There are 19 foreign-born members of Congress, this according to the New York Post, though some are natural-born citizens due to having at least one parent who is a U.S. citizen. Under Mace's proposal, Senator Bernie Moreno, he's a Republican, ally of President Donald Trump, who was born in Colombia and became a U.S. citizen at 18, could no longer serve in the U.S. Congress. The same restriction would apply to Representatives Juan Cicilline, Young Kim, Victoria Spartz, who became naturalized citizens after immigration to the U.S. from Mexico, South Korea, and Ukraine, respectively. There's a list of Democrats, some of the ones that we have talked about quite frequently. We'll see. I think she's on to something, though. I think she's on to something. While we're talking about Congress and members of Congress, the New York Post has a very interesting column that they published yesterday about members of Congress, old members of Congress. The title is, or headline, Congress's most out-of-it members, seniors who freeze, get bamboozled, and even have dementia, yet remain in office. And they start with Representative Maxine Waters, who doesn't think that 100 is too old to serve in the Congress. Despite twice being duped by Russian comedians and regularly making little sense, the 87-year-old is hitting the campaign trail once again this year to seek a 19th term which would have her serving 38 years in office. She's not alone. Other members of Congress are showing advanced signs of senility and in some cases dementia, but remain determined to stay the course. Representative Frederica Wilson from Florida. She is 83, has had a month-long unexplained absence from Capitol Hill, where she has missed over 43 votes since mid-April and has been a total no-show on all of her legislative committee work, but we're still paying her to do a job. You probably recognize Miss Wilson. She's a very sassy senior, known for dressing in pink cowboy getup, and has been making increasingly unhinged remarks like demanding an uprising where people are taken to the streets over immigration enforcement. And she's called for citizens to phone Republican lawmakers with threats. She's gone off the deep end here. During her absence, Ms. Wilson's social media accounts have shared recycled photos from last year without disclosure, presumably to trick folks into thinking that she is well and active, but there's something going on with her. Something going on. The delegate from D.C., Eleanor Holmes Norton, according to a police report filed last year, and now she is a non-voting member. She's 88 and has early signs of dementia, according to that report. She fell victim to a scam when a group showed up at her D.C. home at a time the caretaker power of attorney was not at her residence, pretending to be heating and air workers. The scammers charged over $4,000 to her credit card. The oldest member of Congress, she recently tried to have a 19th century slavery emancipation memorial torn down, has been described by friends and colleagues as unable to function independently, rarely in attendance for committee meetings, and appearing not to recognize people she has known for years, according to the New York Times. Norton, who has denied accusations she has dementia, has been in Congress since 1991. She is seeking re-election this year. Wow. 88 years old. She's seeking another term. Senator Mitch McConnell. We all know some of his issues. 84 years old. First came to Washington in 1985. The Soviet Union was still intact, and the pinnacle of consumer tech was the newly released Nintendo 8-bit home gaming system. That just kind of puts it in perspective when you look back to 1985, doesn't it? Like those old video games, the Post writes, McConnell now unexpectedly freezes up. Except for him, it's during public appearances. While speaking to reporters on Pentagon policy in July 2023, McConnell, after a reported concussion early that year, bizarrely stopped moving and gazed ahead, dead-eyed for over 30 seconds. You remember that? We captured that on video. The same apparent neural glitch happened a month later in a similar situation, and Mr. McConnell only snapped out of it after prodding from staff. In 2025, he also required brief use of a wheelchair, and the same year announced that this term will be his last. At least Mitch understands it's time to go home. Can't keep doing this. Some of these others, they're going to keep pushing it. Because basically what the U.S. Congress is for them is assisted living. You get a staff to help you get around. You get a staff to help you with your daily activities. Representing Maxine Waters, concerns over her incoherent rambling have led many to speculate the 87-year-old California Democrat may be a few fries short of a Happy Meal. Again, I'm reading from the New York Post. She's been a few fries short of a Happy Meal for a long, long time, not because she was getting old. John Carter from Texas, he's a Republican, 84-year-old incumbent. He's been described as by primary challengers as half dead, worse than Joe Biden, and his ongoing presence in Washington has been likened to elder abuse by those calling for new blood in the seat. This year, he's running for his 13th term. He holds the distinction of having among the most missed roll call votes this century in Congress, 803. He appears to struggle reading prepared remarks at a House subcommittee that was just last week. Again, he shouldn't be there. We're paying for a staff to keep him up, to take care of him. At what age should members of Congress have to retire? Now, some will argue that whenever the people want them to retire. But should there be an age, a mandatory retirement like some industry has? Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Hey, as the weather warms up, those fire ants, boy, they're starting to be active again. I was out yesterday. We're doing just kind of cleaning some stuff up and getting our yard ready because, we got Freedom Farm Fest coming up May 30. If you don't have your ticket yet, I hope you'll join Mike Gallagher and me and a whole host of candidates for Freedom Farm Fest. Just go to 989word.com to get your tickets or email me and I'll send you the info. But I was out in the yard kind of getting ready and noticed the fire ants. This hits close to home because the team at Patriot Pest Management, the owner Keith, lost his brother-in-law to a severe allergic reaction from fire ant stings before help could even arrive. You don't want to put your family or your friends through that. So call today, Patriot Pest Management, 864-895-7299, 864-895-7299. They'll take care of it. So don't take chances when it comes to your family's safety with those fire ants. Take back your yard and enjoy peace of mind this season. And here's what you need to know. Patriot Pest Management, they take a different approach. Store-bought products, they only treat what you can see, those mounds of dirt. But Patriot Pest Management, they treat your entire yard. They eliminate both the mounds and the underground colonies that you can't see and sometimes you can't take care of. And they back it up with a 1-year guarantee. So, again, don't take chances. Get your yard treated right now. Call Patriot Pest Management, 864-895-7299. You can go online and schedule it there, too, at patriotpestmgt.com. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you could trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. We've been talking a lot, of course, about the effort to redraw the congressional districts in South Carolina. That's been the top of mind, top of the headlines for about a week now since the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling that race does not have to be part of the equation. Of course, President Trump would like for South Carolina to draw 7 districts, which would mean drawing Representative Jim Clyburn out of the district that he's represented for a number of years. On our guest line, the guy who's been at the forefront of the fight in the South Carolina House from District 14, representing Lawrence County, Representative Luke Rankin. How are you?
Joey, I'm great. Thanks for having me back on. It's been a very exciting past couple weeks, to say the least. Yep.
Well, you guys have been in the spotlight. I mean, this is not just a state issue, but it's been a national issue. All eyes are on South Carolina. So give us an update. I know things got a little testy over the last couple of days. You guys have been working overtime. You were in late, but you got it done from what I understand. And it's kind of interesting to watch. And I did watch some of it. I love the fact that I can go online and see what you guys are up to. And at one point, you literally were on lockdown, weren't you?
Yeah, Joey, I mean, to your point, first of all, this issue is bigger than South Carolina. This is obviously a national movement. The Supreme Court's decision has greatly affected many of the states. And, I'm honored to help lead the charge here in South Carolina. But, last night, I mean, we were debating on the House floor for 14 hours. It was a long, very intense day, and tensions were definitely getting high towards the end. And Representative Rosalind Henderson Myers, a prominent Democrat in the body, she invoked a very interesting rule where the bill has to be read from cover to cover, and a redistricting bill as large as this one, it was 110 pages. It was unbelievable, and so we had to sit there for over 2 hours as the clerk had to read this bill. Just a lot of drama on the floor. Tensions were pretty high at some points. But at the end of the day, Joey, we passed this bill overwhelmingly. I mean, and there were only a couple Republicans that voted with the Democrats. But this bill's now in the Senate, and now the Senate has to take up the torch here and do the right thing and make sure that they get this across the finish line and put it on Governor McMaster's desk for a signature.
Yeah. Well, at one point when I tuned in, when the clerk was reading, which, poor Bubba Cromer, he's trying to retire, and and he's working overtime. I mean, at one point he literally was just reading a bunch of numbers. What were those numbers?
Yeah, so honestly, most of the bill, Joey, is a lot of geographical precinct data for all the different precincts all over the entire state. And so he has to rattle off the precinct name, the registered number of voters in that precinct. And, as you can imagine, with the state of South Carolina, with how many precincts there are, I mean, that is a ton of information to rattle off. And he did a phenomenal job. The entire House gave him a standing ovation, including the Democrats. I mean, The Democrats were the one that invoked this rule, and I honestly think some of them felt bad for Bubba, having to do this, and they joined in on the overwhelming applause for him. So that was a great way to kind of cap off the night, and then we obviously went to a vote and again passed it overwhelmingly.
Yeah. At one point, I think there was some question about whether who was the representative again who asked for this for the reading?
So Representative Rosalind Henderson Myers.
Yeah, I think there was some question at one point as to whether or not she got up and left her seat, and I guess you can't. You have to stay in your seat.
Yeah, and so I didn't see her, leave her seat. There were multiple people around me that saw her leave her seat, and then, it was honestly just I felt we were back in middle school because, the Speaker Pro Tem, Tommy Pope, he was saying, "Hey, did you leave your seat?" And she was saying, "No, I didn't," and everyone was screaming, "Yes, you did." I mean, it was unbelievable, and honestly, it was quite, comedic at times as well, and it was. It was definitely a night that none of us in that room will ever forget.
Yeah. Representative Luke Rankin is with me, and I'm sorry to do this, but I got to correct you. That's not middle school. That's kindergarten.
For sure. And, tensions were definitely getting to a point. I mean, we had points of order, screaming all over the room. And, man, I tell you what, we definitely lived a truly historic day. And I mentioned this in my speech last night. I mean, this was truly one of the most historic, consequential votes in South Carolina history. And just to be a part of that, Joey, was just an incredible experience.
Sure, yeah. Well, there were a lot of things going on. The Democrats, of course, their strategy was, let's try to run the clock out. As you went into Monday, there were, 500 or 600 amendments?
Yeah, I mean, so, we started Friday, which was the beginning of this process, with about, 200 amendments. And then over the weekend, Democrats kept working on more. By the time Monday rolled around, there was over 500. I think we got close to 600. And eventually, Joey, we debated this bill for 3 entire days, from sunup to sundown. And at some point, since we control the legislature, as Republicans, we invoked and passed some rules to get rid of a lot of those amendments, and basically, invoking cloture, which gives us the ability to kind of get through a lot of these amendments a lot quicker, and then ultimately get to a vote. Because the Democrats, like you said, they were trying to run the clock out, and if they had their way, we would have been here until August, debating this bill. So we had to do that. It was the right thing to do. I do want to commend the House leadership for ensuring that this bill got passed, and now it's in the Senate's hands. So. Obviously still some work to do, Joey. The eyes of the country are really on us because, experts are talking about, what's going to happen with the majority in Washington come November. And it literally could come down to 1 or 2 seats. And for us to have an opportunity to flip Jim Clyburn's district and put another Republican in office, this has not only state impacts, but a national impact as well.
Yeah. Now, there were reports, Representative Rankin, that the president had made multiple phone calls to some of you guys. Is that true? Did he kind of stay in touch?
Yes. Yeah. The president has been very involved in this process, not so much with the House, because we've actually been doing our job. The problem has been with the Senate, and Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey has really been the thorn in the side here with this whole process. And he seems to still be unwilling to really move on his position. From my understanding, President Trump had multiple conversations with Shane Massey last week. I kind of anticipate that, Joey, that's probably going to happen again over the next couple of days. The next couple of days are going to be extremely crucial. How does the Senate approach this? It's in Judiciary Committee today. It's expected to be passed out of Judiciary and on the Senate floor by tomorrow. So how they maneuver this is going to be very, very important to watch because the time is ticking. I mean, early voting starting here next Tuesday. So we're kind of up against the clock a little bit, and Senate Republicans have to get motivated. I think President Trump and the administration is going to apply some additional pressure where needed. This has got to be across the finish line really by the end of the weekend.
Yep. All right, so quickly here, we have about 30 seconds. What happens if you don't get it done by next Tuesday when early voting starts?
Well, I'll keep this short and as concise as possible. From what we understand, I think there's a little bit of leeway. We can probably go a little bit into early voting and still get this done. We don't want to really do that if we don't have to. And we really, again, want to get this wrapped up by the end of Memorial Day weekend. We feel very comfortable that we can do that.
Yep.
But again, the Senate's got to get this done.
Yep. Representative Luke Rankin, thank you for your time and for the update. And hey, all eyes are on Columbia. We'll be watching the Senate.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Joey.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.